It's Eve Stanway, breakup and divorce coach. Wow, gosh, it's been an interesting few days. I spent yesterday, all day yesterday actually, recording the first 7 episodes of my podcast, Dare to Speak, or get the name right, Dare to Speak, Difficult Conversations That Change Everything. I'm going to be releasing those episodes on the 2nd of January. They may be there a little bit sooner actually, so do find me on Spotify and iTunes or your preferred listening resource. I'm also going to be posting the videos of the recordings on YouTube because I know lots of people prefer to look on YouTube for things. So please do go and find me just search for me actually at Eve Stanway and subscribe, and the videos will get sent to you or you'll get notified as soon as they get uploaded. But I'm very, very excited to be doing the podcast. And then the other exciting thing that happened yesterday is I found out that I'm in Psychology's magazine, where I had the real privilege of talking about divorce in a way that is non-antagonistic with one of my colleagues, Becca Scott, who is another divorce and breakup coach. And what's interesting is she works primarily with women. She looks at the health implications of separation, divorce, and difficult relationships. And I work mostly with men, looking at the emotional overwhelm, the breakdown in relationships, and how to communicate without escalating things. So it's a real treat to be able to collaborate with another divorce and breakup coach to produce something that, hits different aspects for the people who are going to read these articles, for you as the listener who can know that there is help and support in whatever you need for your particular thing. There's no one size fits all. And that's where it's really good that divorce coaching is coming into being. And then I discovered on that same day, it must have been one of those magical days, that I'm in Grazia and Apple News with an article about the way that men are very often kind of sleepwalking into divorces. The reasons for this are so complicated. I've been writing a series of posts recently, and I'm going to talk about it a lot in my podcast about what is happening. And, I can say what's happening, because I've been through divorce. My parents also went through a divorce. But as a divorce and breakup coach, and I get to talk a lot to men because most of my clients are men at different stages of divorce and breakup, that I get more of an insight into what's really happening. I'm pretty astute. I have been studying philosophy and psychology and relationships and coaching for over 35 years, actually, and I've been a practicing psychotherapist for 25 years. So this isn't about being taken in by some toxic person who's just giving their side of the argument. In fact, it's really common when I'm coaching that people will say, yeah, but how do you know you're only hearing my side? And the reason why I do know is because, first of all, I don't really look at it like sides. There are no sides to an argument. There's different perspectives. There's different perceptions. There's different experiences. There's different needs or wants or desires. There's different processes. There's different histories. But there aren't different sides. Because there isn't a necessity for there to be a conflict. We don't need that. We don't need to think about it in those terms. Oh, what's my side or what's your side? And so the reason why I work with men and women and couples, occasionally I get the odd child of a divorcing couple who get in touch with me saying, I really want to talk to you. It's obviously an adult child, not younger children, who say, I really want to talk to you about my parents' separation and divorce. Is there any way you can talk to them about being less argumentative in front of me and my siblings because it's really affecting my life? These are not children who are uncaring or unfeeling about their parents' relationships, but they are young adults, sometimes teenagers, who are frustrated and annoyed because they're seeing their parents acting in ways that they don't expect to act themselves. the children who are looking for emotional regulation, and one of the reasons why sometimes, sorry, I've just got to move my pillow. One of the reasons why sometimes they are slamming the door in their parents' face and saying, you just don't listen, you don't care about me, is because, and I had to recognise this in my own relationship, we become deregulated ourselves as parents. We weren't raised in a culture where kids could answer back. I couldn't answer back to my parents, and I'm sure you couldn't either. But we have raised children who are absolutely willing to say to us, actually, Mum, you're the problem. Dad, you're the problem. So the podcast is a great way for me to talk about these issues and share what is actually happening. I don't pretend to know everything that's happening. And I do know that there's some people going through really, really, really tricky, difficult situations. But here's the thing, even in very bad relationships where there is serious domestic abuse, where there's physical violence, it started somewhere. And it nearly always starts with coercion, it starts with toxic interactions, and it starts with the ways that difficult conversations happen, whether or not at the beginning of the relationship where you said something where you were shut down or you were dismissed. And you may have taken it as a one-off, or the person who did it may have excused it as them being stressed, or them having a lot to deal with, or them being bad at talking about stuff. And of course that can happen. We can have that as one-offs. But my feeling is, by sharing the podcast, by doing these lives, by talking about this, by getting the articles out where we're talking about what's really going on, what happens is that it means that if you were on the verge of getting into a new relationship and there's a gut feeling, there's a part of you going, I'm not sure whether that is right, the way they spoke to me, or the way that they, I said I was interested in doing something and I was just ignored or blanked. Or they asked me about their interests and then I said, and then they carried on talking about their own. Or I saw them getting angry or frustrated or treating a particular person badly or treating you badly. How we handle that, how we have those conversations with ourselves and with that person and maybe with other people in our lives, that's what happens at the beginning of bad relationships. And if we get better at being able to handle it or manage it at the beginning and identify it at the beginning, then what happens is that we hopefully will feel more comfortable to end a relationship before it becomes bad. So where did I start today? I was talking about my podcast and I was talking about why it matters. These articles that have come out, the podcasts when they come out, they allow me to reach into people's lives and share with them something that might resonate, something that they might recognise, something that they might go, oh, that's happening to me. And so in the last day where I've had people contacting me through WhatsApp, I've had emails, I've had people just booking calls to talk with me, it's because something that they've been living with by themselves, something that they've been managing alone in their own space, they're able at the moment, I just realised I can move that, get more light, they're able to go, oh, there's somebody out there who might understand, it might resonate with them. And this is why I talk a lot, you'll see it on my socials, and I'm always going, oh, I was in this and I was in that and I was in the other. This isn't me grandstanding. I am proud, I'm super duper proud of it. But it's not me grandstanding. What it is me drawing attention to the fact that what I have been through, what so many of my clients are going through, what you may be going through yourself, other people are going through too. And when we share our stories, when we share what we've learned from it, when we aren't out there trying to name and blame and shame, we're just out there trying to let other people know this is a thing. Because I feel very strongly that if we let men know that sleepwalking into divorce is a thing, that asking for a divorce and being able to stay there while the other person goes through their emotional catch-up, the shock and the grief, and the process of realising that when a relationship breaks down, there are two people very often who've shut down, who've stopped knowing each other. Not one person, both. And that distance which forms a chasm between us in a relationship that eventually leads to the end of the relationship actually is something we could do something about while the relationship was going on. Very often, not always. That those flags, those gut feelings, those I'm not too sure about this, those tiny icks that we feel at the beginning of a relationship, they might be worth reflecting on and exploring. That our children are not affected by separation, divorce and breakup half as much as we think. What they are affected by is our deregulation, our arguments, our need to blame the other parent rather than reflecting ourselves. It is conflict, silence, failure in communications, lack of willingness to have difficult conversations or stay present when the conversation that we have with somebody else hits home to them so that they have to go through a process to understand it. It's those things that cause the damage, those things that cause the problems. And that is why I'm doing the podcast. That is why I've got new blogs coming out all the time on my website. Please just go and have a look. It's in the bio. That is why writing articles is a privilege and a joy and really, really, really matters. And that is why the work matters. That's why the conversations matter. And that is why you matter. So thank you so much for watching today. And I will talk to you really soon. And please do find me, follow me on Spotify. Get ready, because there's going to be an amazing podcast coming out. And I'm really looking forward to being able to share insight and knowledge and understanding. To be able to share what it's really like. And this is not telling other people's stories. This is telling what we can learn from having listened to so many different people, what I have learned along the way. Because learning matters, and the only way we're going to change stuff is by learning. You know, any of you that have looked at history will wonder why history keeps repeating itself. There's a reason. The reason why history repeats itself is because it's hard to reflect. And while we're out there being acrimonious and saying the other person is the baddie, or saying that we're the baddie, we're working in this polarity of goodies and baddies, and there isn't goodies and baddies. There is terrible behaviour, there is good behaviour. There is doing the wrong thing, there's doing the right thing. There's one person's perspective and another person's perspective. There is no need for judgment. But there is often a need for change, and there is often a need for good communication, good listening, and good conversations. So wishing you the best of the conversations today, and I will see you very soon. Take care.